Alright, boys and girls, I'm doing some long overdue maintenance on my 2006 WR450. And while I'm doing all that maintenance, I decided to go ahead and install a Trail Tech fan. Try to keep myself cooled off a little bit out here in the hot desert. So, it's a universal kit. They don't make a kit specifically for this bike. So I had to get a universal kit. So the instructions that came with are pretty darn useless. You gotta figure shit out by yourself. One side's in French. I don't parlez-vous, so I had to go to the English side, obviously. And there's not much to it, you know. But then again, it's not that complicated. I should be able to figure it out. No biggie. So I've got a bunch of shit torn apart here. Got the radiator off. While I got the radiator off, I'll go ahead and rinse it out real good. Maybe get some of that sediment out of the bottom if there's any stuck down this little part here. And I went ahead and took the time to straighten out some bent fins that I had in there. That was a little bit tedious, but you just grab a beer, sit down and straighten them out. Over here you can see a little bit of evidence of me crashing. Fins are a little bit crinkled in. I crash a lot, so I can't tell you which crash it was that did that, but I did it. Probably won't be the last time. So here's the fan. I'm gonna mount that puppy up with a little mounting hardware that they gave me, and then we'll continue. Alright, so before I took the radiator off and all that kind of jazz, I left the gas tank on and I dry fit this thing to make sure I wasn't going to have any clearance problems. So I went ahead and made a little mark there and down here so I could line these holes up, get in the right position. I wanted to make sure that I mounted this whole thing low enough so that I could still get this bolt out, and because otherwise I would have liked to fit this thing way up here. It was nice tucked up under there, but then you couldn't get that bolt. There was clearance problems. This part over here hit, so that wasn't going to work. So I mounted it down. I'm going to mount it down here. And the other thing I'm going to do, instead of having this thing straight where these mounting things are in line, I'm going to rotate it slightly so that I get a clear shot going down in this hole and through the radiator fins, because if I try and do it straight, it's going to hit these little edges and yeah, it's not going to work out. So you'll see it after I get the things all strapped in there. It'll make more sense what I'm saying. Alright, so I'm ready to mount this thing up. I've got these little tied things going through here. I've got the hard plastic disc on there first, then the rubber pad mount. So now I'm just going to turn this over and run it through the radiator, get it mounted up. Alright, as you can see, I've got those things started through there already. I always like to squirt a little Arm Roll on those plastic zip things. Helps slide through the radiator a little bit easier, and then it just washes off with water. Alright, so I've got this thing pushed all down there with the little rubber pads on it. And now I'm going to go ahead and put these little locking discs on there. But before I do that, I've got these little rubber washers. They're like fiber impregnated, so they're kind of tough. I've been using these for a lot of different things, so I'm going to go ahead and put one of those on first before I put this little locking thing on. Just another little pad so the plastic's not rubbing right on the radiator. So on this one here, it's a little bit close to this mounting point. So what I did was to take this little tab and just grind a little bit off for some clearance. It'll fit in there. Universal fit. We all know what that means. Fit every bike in the universe except yours. Alright, so got that all mounted in there. It's pretty solid. I want you to see this here. There's a gap here, about 1/4 of an inch. And some people will say, oh, it's got to be right up against the radiator, otherwise you're going to be sucking in all this air, yada yada. So I talked to the people at Trail Tech, and they said they did testing on this, and that it barely made any difference at all. And so, yeah, that's why they told me to put these rubber blocks on this side. Alright, so I got the radiator mounted up, put the fan on it, and you can see there it fits pretty good. It's nice and solid mounted. And one of the things that I'm going to have to do, these things come with this little meter down here, and when you get a kit for a specific bike, there's usually a big old bracket that fits somewhere, and this thing will fit in that bracket down here in this area. Well, mine is a universal kit. There's no bracket because, like I said, it fits every bike in the world in the universe except mine. So instead of making a bracket for this thing to fit down here somewhere, I'm actually going to mount it up here in this area. So I'm going to have to make my own little bracket, and it also means I'm going to have to extend the wiring. So the wiring harness that I got that goes up there, I'm going to have to extend these to go up to the battery so that that wiring harness will fit all the way up there. And I'm also going to have to extend a couple of these wires here. No big deal, easy enough. I like to solder, so it'll all work out good. Alright, so I had some scrap aluminum around, so I cut it, bent it up, drilled it, made my little bracket for the temperature gauge switch. I'm going to mount that sucker up right here. Got a couple holes drilled in there. I'll tap them out, put some screws in there, and see how that looks. So instead of hooking these straight up to the battery, I'm going to hook them up here and here. And I ran the cable through this hole in this rubber part already. There was already a hole there, so it was very convenient to run that through there. I'll have to get this fused and try and fit it down in here real nice. And I got the ends of these things bent down so that when it goes on here, it'll just go down that way and come up under this cap here, because this cap fits on top of that. And I'll show you a picture of that when I get done. Alright, so as you can see, I've got these wires bent down, this little fixture here, and make it all tidy. And the other one's right here, bent down. Zip tied the wires up out of the way, tucked the other one down in there. Try to clean it up a little bit. And before anybody says, "What the hell's that green thing?" That's something I added. That's my negative going to my Cherubi's taillight. So that's something I added on before. So this little cap should snap right on here now that I got it all cleaned up. There we go. Nice. Let's see if this plug goes in there. I'm going to be embarrassed if it doesn't. Come on now. There we go. All good. So one of the things I'm going to do different is I'm going to add a relay to the system so that I can use this power button to have more control over when the fan comes on and when I can turn it off. And you'll see more of that when I get done with it. I'll demonstrate that. But I tapped into the wires here. I put some leads on here that it's going to go to the relay. That'll activate the relay. So I got that soldered up, and I'm going to shrink wrap it and connect it all back together. So there, I got this thing all back together. Mounted this back up. Got my 2 lead wires coming off of there. Real nice, and that'll go to the relay. And that's coming in the mail soon. When I get that hooked up, I'll show it to you. Alright, so the way I'm hooking this up, the power lead from the battery to power the fan, instead it's going to a relay, which meant that it was going to be about a foot too short. So I'm going to build myself a little extension cable. I bought these connectors here, and this will allow me to plug it straight into the plug that came with the harness. So before I do that, I am going to just tin these wires slightly, because I like to do that. I think it increases my reliability, and plus I like to solder. So here's the temperature sensor that's going to get stuck inside the radiator fins. This wire that comes with it is really frail feeling. It feels nice and supple and everything, but I still think it's very tough. So I'm going to take some shrink tubing and fit it over that and give it a little extra protection as I weave it through the bike to get it up to where it's supposed to go. Alright, so I was able to get that shrink wrap put around that cable. It makes it feel a lot better. Went ahead and routed it down through here, and here, and got into the sensor there. And so the sensor's obviously installed. And I went ahead and made myself a little, I don't know what you call it, a little, just something to keep the wire from rubbing up against the radiator. So now there's a gap in between here, and that'll keep it from rubbing on there. Crude but effective and cheap. So one of the things that happened when I put this fan on here, I wasn't going to be able to use these nice Works Connection radiator guards that came with the bike when I got it, because it was going to hit the fan. There was this piece here that went down there, across there, and obviously that wasn't going to work. So I said, what the hell? Might as well cut that out and use some of the guard. So I have a little bit of protection, not as much as I did before. Obviously that's not going to be as robust, but it'll help, hopefully. Anyways, that's what I did. So okay, so I got the fan installed. It's all done. This relay that I planned on using to help out with the installation and running of this thing didn't work out. I'm not sure why. I spent probably 4 or 5 hours trying to get this thing to work. I couldn't figure out why it won't work. It actually, the relay itself worked, but it wasn't working the way I wanted it to in conjunction with all this other stuff. So I just ended up taking this out. So let's go take a look at this. There's my little bracket and little temperature indicator. It's at 83 degrees right now. So I got everything routed down through here like it's supposed to. Everything came out really nice. I'm pretty happy with this thing. I'm going to go ahead and fire the bike up. I'm going to spare you the agony of listening to this thing warm up. But yeah, hopefully this thing will kick on like it's supposed to. Otherwise I'm going to be really embarrassed. Alright, stay tuned. Things on its set on its default at 150. See if it goes on. 151, yeah. Fan just kicked on. Awesome. Let's shut this bike off. Fan's still running. 152. Should be dropping here in a second. As you can hear, the fan still running. 150. 149. The fan should shut off. There it goes. Success. Alright, so I'm really happy with this thing turned out. So I highly recommend this thing if you're worried about keeping your bike cool. As a side note, once I shut the bike off, the fan continued to run until the temperature dropped, and then the fan shut off. Well, about 30-40 seconds later, the temperature went back up, and the fan kicked on again and ran for maybe 20 seconds. And it shut off again, and then a little bit later it ran for about 5 or 6 seconds. So I mean, it's nothing unusual. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but I'm not surprised that it did. No big deal. But that's one of the things I was trying to avoid by using a relay, so that when the bike got shut off, the fan would not run while the bike wasn't running, or at least while that power button was shut off. So if I use that power button to shut the bike off, the fan would shut off. Now, even if I turn this power button off, the fan's going to continue to run until that temperature drops. So I was trying to avoid that, but I was too stupid to figure it out. I'm not sure what happened. All right. Yeah, if anybody else ever tries that and you succeed, please let me know what you did, because I could not figure it out. All right, so yeah, the fan's all in. There it is. Fits in there real nice. Yeah, fits like it was supposed to be there. Yeah, it turned out good. So I'm all done. I just need to go for a test ride. Got my pipe all cleaned up, polished that up, cleaned this all up. Got all that crud off of there because it was just baked on crud, so it looks a lot better now. It was really shiny until I started the bike, and then it turned all blue, but that's all right. At least it's not all full of crap anymore. So yeah, everything's all good to go. I got my Voyager all wired in. I'm gonna try out this little tank bag on here. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but if it does, that'll give me another option for carrying a few things. I got my soft luggage on there. Got my 2 rolly bags on there. Tool bag. Muffler's all polished up. Yeah, it's ready to go. Let's go for a little test ride, see how that works out. That's how I ended up mounting this thing around here. I just wrapped it around this and ran it up here, and that worked out real good. I put one of these quick disconnects in there. I like that. I like those on my bikes because, you know, taking the tank off on and off all the time, so that works out good. And I didn't hook anything up to the Voyager except the power. I didn't feel like I needed all the other stuff on there. And yeah, it's all ready to go, man. I forgot to mention these holes that I drilled in here. Those will probably give me about 3 or 4 mile an hour higher top speed when I'm going 120. So I'm glad I did that. Yeah, it's all good, man. Well, yeah, this thing down here, I put that on there so I could put this strap on there. That worked out really well. So it's all good. All right. Thanks for watching.